98 Not Out, sponsored by Shepherd Neame, proud supporters of cricket in Essex.
That was missing you, especially for Chrissy in Chelmsford. Hope you enjoyed that. Another new fan alert. Alex in Paris is listening in, apparently.
We're everywhere tonight.
We are everywhere. We are spreading almost as fast as our petition is spreading. But we'll talk more about that in a second. But our third guest of the evening is just joining us online. We have Elizabeth Ammon, who is the cricket writer for The Times and the Sunday Times. Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
How are you doing on this sunny, perfect for cricket weather Thursday evening?
Yes, I'm fine. It's very frustrating, isn't it? It's, everybody's talking about football, and the weather is cricket weather.
Yeah, I saw your tweet that it's strange times when you've got football being played in the cricket season and there's no cricket in the cricket season.
Yes.
Very annoying.
Lizzie, how do you sort of view the county cricket season? Do you think there's going to be much of a red ball season, or do you think it now will only be white ball focused?
Well, I'm very optimistic there will be county cricket of some form running through probably August, September and a bit into October. The red ball question is quite an interesting one, really. I think there will be some red ball cricket. Whether or not that is in any sort of formalised competition is still to be seen. It's a little bit logistically complicated just because of it being a multi-day format and having to stay in hotels and all of that. So that's all to be worked through. But if it does happen, and it seems like we've got through a little minor spat that happened last week where some counties were a little more reluctant to play red ball cricket because it will be more expensive to play red ball cricket than it would be to play one-day cricket. But we seem to have got through that, and there seems to be a desire to play some. I mean, if it is played in this formalised competition, it'll be in a regional competition, so there'll only be 5 sort of group matches, as it were, followed by a final played, obviously, in regions, which I don't think you can call it a championship, and there wouldn't be any sort of promotional relegation or anything like that. But, any red ball, I suppose, would be music to our ears and beautiful to our eyes.
Dean Headley was on earlier on this evening just talking about the lifeblood of cricket and how, sort of from the national team and going down through counties and then ultimately with clubs. And he had some strong views on how clubs should be supported and almost run by county boards. Have you got any view? I know you're a massive supporter of county cricket, but how do you see it from the club's perspective of how they survive and how they go forward after all this?
Well, I've talked to a lot of clubs through this, and the picture really varies. The most important thing, I think, for club cricket is junior cricket, not only because that's sort of the lifeblood of their finances for most clubs, just from junior membership and summer camps and coaching and adults, drinking in the bar and this and the other. On a normal summer, that would be an enormous amount of money, but also there's a real risk that you, lose some of those fringe junior players and they go off and do something else and you never see them again. And also this year was supposed to be a sort of boost in participation because of last year's bumper summer, because of the World Cup and Stokes' Headingley heroics and all of that. We were rather hoping that lots of new kids would sign up this summer, but of course at the moment there's nothing for them to sign up to.
It's a real tragedy.
I think that's, in terms of getting club cricket on, that really has to be priority. I mean, it seems a nonsense to me, and I don't know to you, but if you can have 15 children sitting in a classroom at school, which they can, I don't know why you can't have 15 kids outside playing cricket. It seems really odd to me. I mean, in terms of the wider question, I'm not quite sure what Dean was saying, but in terms of counties making sure, do you mean in terms of making sure clubs don't go under?
Yeah, I think it's more a case of sort of structuring with the clubs that, the clubs follow a pattern that the counties are setting out so the players can come through the clubs sort of getting the right coaching to go to the counties rather than sort of the counties relying on clubs to bring them forward at the moment. I think they wanted his view was that counties and the ECB should have a greater input as to what goes in at the local clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I think some counties do it very, very well, and there's a real connect between the counties and the county board, and in fact, some of them have merged their boards so that there isn't a sort of separate county board as there used to be. I do worry, and I suspect Dean does as well, that we miss some talent in club cricket because there is a bit of a disconnect in the talent pathway, and some children get into the county age group system, and then other kids don't, and then I wonder if they never get in, and that there are late bloomers, and some kids don't get better, especially the ones that do the difficult things like leg spin or this and the other. They're not going to be incredible at 11, are they? So he's got a really valid point there. I mean, I think for the moment, I'd like any cricket, but it's really important, I think. Especially, I have a 13-year-old son who is just, to a 13-year-old, the prospect of not playing cricket for 18 months is like an eternity.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that because we've actually set a petition up this evening, and it's on our Facebook and Twitter, to get the government and ECB to review the 1st of August for recreational cricket and bring it forward to the 4th of July. And it's getting a little bit of support off some people already. And if you want to support that, it would be great. And we'd love to get it seemed to work very well for Marcus Rashford the other day. And hopefully we can get a bit of attention for cricket and get the government to do another U-turn.
Yeah, I do think August is probably it's better than nothing, but there must be some prospect of some sort of play, especially junior cricket, because you can adapt that much more safely than you can sort of adult league cricket, in that they don't have to have a slip cordon. You can change the ball, they can bat in pairs. You can adapt the format to be safer, but they're playing cricket.
I think even with the adult format, it's not going to be too difficult to even adhere to the sort of 2 metre social rule, because how many, apart from the very, very top level of the game, you very rarely see 4 slips in an adults game. They're normally spread out everywhere, ready for a bit of shotgun bowling anyway.
Yeah, exactly. never have a slip for more than a couple of overs, do you?
No.
There's another danger, and I think you kind of alluded to it slightly earlier about why we need to get recreational cricket going sooner rather than later, because if we leave it too much longer, whether we go into September, even sort of the back end of August, you're going to have the football clubs, the rugby clubs, the hockey clubs, whatever, opening up, and then children are going to have to make decisions that they normally wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And as we know, cricket can be, particularly sort of in my experience, when you get to the back end of a normal season, you find you're struggling to get 11 kids out because they're off playing football or they're doing rugby or whatever. And I think that's another factor that we need to think about in trying to push for an earlier restart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's really important for the government to remember that the cricket season is finite. You have to get it done by the end of September, whereas with football, rugby, hockey, you can get going and finish whenever you want in the year. I mean, it just involves playing in the heat sometimes. But cricket, we can't suddenly start again in November, can we?
No, it's not going to work too well.
I just felt like that.
Although there are a few crazy games that go on like Christmas Day and Boxing Day still, isn't there? There's still a few sides that do that every now and again, but I don't think that could be a weekly occurrence. You had a bit of an unusual way you've come into cricket as well, haven't you? You sort of, in terms of, you're probably one of the first sort of female voices that were back heard on BBC local commentaries, and probably quite sort of shouting out for the county game more than the international game.
Yeah, I mean, I've always sort of been around cricket because of family connections, and I was a club scorer, and then I set up a cult section at a cricket club, and so I've always been around cricket. But county cricket is really sort of my passion, in that's kind of the lifeblood of everything, really, isn't it? It's where all of English cricket relies on international cricket and our group of England players, because that's what brings in the money, that's what's the most high profile, that's what gets the most focus. But those England players, they're not dropped into the England camp by a stalk, are they? They're produced and developed by clubs and then counties.
Or a dodgy passport.
And that system is so important and has to be nurtured and looked after. And Otherwise, we don't have any of the rest of it.
I think it's county cricket also stands midway. I mean, you can look, from counties you'll get a chance of international cricket, but I think for youngsters and younger players that are at clubs will aspire to get into a county setup as well. So, it's this huge stepping stone on your potential cricket career. I mean, even if there's nothing wrong with actually being a dedicated county person. We've seen several of them, recently and loads more down the years that have been quite happy to be a steady performer for the county without going on to any sort of fame and fortune.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you manage to carve out a sort of 10 or 15 year career where you get paid for playing cricket, then I think absolutely, and I think that's absolutely can be counted as a success, because lots and lots of people would give their right arm to be paid to play cricket.
Yeah, I think something we've raised a couple of times is this going to be the sign for some of the counties to get some more professional backing and become more self-reliant, and having to maybe even get into a sort of football-style transfer system with some of the bigger clubs playing smaller clubs for players. And I know it could create a wider two divisions, but does cricket maybe need to become a bit more self-financing and stop relying just on the ECB?
Certainly what this pandemic has highlighted is the number of clubs who the vast majority of their income is that revenue they get from the ECB, and not much generated by their own either on-pitch ticket revenue, or in terms of the bigger clubs like Surrey, Lancashire, etc. They have an enormous amount of off-pitch income from their facilities, from conference banqueting, etc., etc., and they are far less reliant on ECB money. But it is a precarious business model to be relying on distributions from television money, because we just don't know what that's going to look like in the future. At the moment, we're in the middle of a bumper Sky deal, but that might not, that comes up for renewal in 4 years' time, and that might not happen again. So I do think that going forward, there will be some really difficult questions to answer about what the professional structure looks like. Budgets will be tight in the years to come. I mean, across the board, we probably lost so far this season 150 million quid between the ECB and the counties and other bits, and that's a vast amount of money that somehow has to be. That means it can't be spent in future years. So I think there'll be budget tightening, and I think some counties may sort of do a bit of soul searching about whether or not their business model is right, whether their expenditure is right, whether or not they should really be running their business in the way that they are. So it's a really difficult time, but I'm just not sure that any notion of franchises or private investment would really fly in this country. I mean, I know it was looked at when they were looking at the 100 or a franchise T20, and I think it was sort of felt that there wouldn't be the opportunities really for that to work.
Do you think 18 first-class counties can survive?
Well, that's. I mean, we've been saying that a long time, haven't we? And they're still around. And I've been a staunch supporter of 18 first-class counties. I do wonder if maybe in the future, and this is a discussion that will go on and on, whether they don't all play first-class cricket, whether some would prefer to be white ball, semi-professional outfits. And then the first-class system becomes a bit more slimmed down. You don't have quite so many academies, and therefore the money is sort of more concentrated. It would solve a lot of problems to have fewer counties, wouldn't it? Yeah. But it's not. Obviously, clearly, if you are a supporter of one of the counties who might not exist, you're not going to love that at all. And cricket is all about its supporters and its members and this and the other. So it's a very difficult conversation to have.
Now, on a more upbeat theme, the West Indies are here, and the Test series begins on July the 8th. It'd be great to. I mean, a bit like the football last night, which I personally thought was it wasn't quite the same without the crowd. But I think with cricket, it's going to be different, and it's great to see the West Indies have made the trip across, and I think it will actually be quite a decent contest.
It should be a very fascinating contest, because it's two squads who both have the same sorts of problems, really. Really good battery of seam bowlers and fast bowlers, and then a bit more fragility in the batting and less less stability in the batting orders. I mean, let's not forget the last two contests against West Indies, both here and away, have been really intense. They've been really well fought and really exciting. I think it's fantastic that they've come over here, and all credit to them, because the headlines about what's happening in the UK around the world have not been flattering to the UK, but I think it's fantastic they're here. I think the ECB have done incredibly well on getting this series on. It is hugely expensive to do the sort of biosecure environments that they talked about, but they've managed it. They've got it on. They've got things in place. And I think when it comes to the 8th of July, I think cricket can really, really grasp that and go, look, this is really high quality international cricket, international sport of which people have been deprived.
Yeah, I think there'll be a huge interest. And as you said earlier, I think after last year and the World Cup success, the thrilling Ashes series, people are, you've even seen it from I think Sky have been quite creative in doing these watch-back things, and I've absolutely loved watching the BBC, yesteryear test matches with the West Indies from the 80s and the 90s. And from what I gather, the viewing figures for those have been absolutely spectacular. So there is clearly a public demand to see cricket back on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is, and I think you can sort of tell by social media that the sun's been out and it feels like summer, and cricket is the sound of summer. We mustn't forget that. For a lot of people, even if you want to be a staunch cricket fan, cricket does provide a sort of background noise to the summer.
Yeah, that's right. Or when I was a kid, lying on the floor in the living room with the curtains drawn and watching my dad's cigarette smoke wafting through the gaps of light that were coming in. But yeah, you're right. I mean, summer, the English summer is hand in hand with the sound of leather on willow. Definitely. Right, Lizzie, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure talking to you, and let's all look forward to a fantastic windy series with England coming up, and let's hope that we can have some recreational cricket and some county cricket in the not too distant future.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
cheers,
take
Lizzie.
care.
Thanks very much.